Welcome to Meet the Candidates Forum for Miami County. I am Nancy McMacken, a member of the YWCA Piqua Public Policy Committee. The YWCA Piqua appreciates our partnership with Troy Leadership Alumni in presenting this information to better inform the voters of Miami County. During this forum, we will hear from candidates in the local contested races, and due to redistricting in Ohio, you will notice changes in several of the congressional districts. District 15 now includes the city of Piqua and several surrounding counties. As the moderator will explain, parts of the city of Troy and Miami County will continue to be served by the representative from the 8th Congressional District. Both sets of congressional district candidates will be speaking. However, Piqua residents will only vote for a candidate running for the 15th Congressional District. To view the complete and current congressional district map, please go to www.findmydistrict.oh.sos.gov. Thank you for joining us for this year's Meet the Candidates Forum, which begins now.
I'm Steve Baker. On behalf of Leadership Troy alumni, the Troy Area Chamber of Commerce, and the YWCA Piqua, we welcome you to this virtually Meet the Candidates with opposition and issues facing the voters in Miami County in the general election on November 8, 2022. Recent redistricting has divided Miami County into two congressional districts, District 8 and District 15, due to the redrawing of the boundaries. Congressman Davidson, a Republican, seeks re-election in the 8th District. Congressman Davidson, you have 2 minutes for your opening comments.
Yeah, thank you to Leadership Troy for hosting this event. I think it's an important event for not just Troy, but Miami County and the surrounding area. People can be well informed on the issues and the candidates that are on their ballot. I always encourage people to go to your local board of elections and make sure you know what's going to be on your ballot before you go try to cast your vote. And I encourage everyone to vote. And of course, I'm asking for everyone who's eligible to vote for me to please vote for me. I love the opportunity to serve in Congress. And I can tell you it's a lot better in the majority. I'm encouraged to see that it looks like Republicans are going to take back the House. And I look forward to serving in the House Financial Services Committee, hopefully as a subcommittee chairman. And I really feel like we're going to make a difference for our country. Joe Biden isn't going to change course on his own, and we need a Republican majority to change course for him and for the good of our country. So I humbly ask for your vote and the chance to continue serving as your member of Congress.
Democratic candidate Dr. Vanessa Enoch is running against Congressman Davidson in this 8th District. Dr. Enoch, you have 2 minutes for your opening statements.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Enoch, and I am a mother, a business owner, and a concerned citizen from Ohio. I am running for Congress because I believe that the people of Ohio's 8th Congressional District deserve to have authentic representation who will work on behalf of the people of this district and not be sold out to big business, big pharma, and special interest groups. This year we're facing a critical time in our nation's history where women's rights are under attack, civil rights are under attack, and we risk the potential for losing our democracy. I'm running as a parent, as a mother of 2 adult daughters who will have less rights than I had growing up, less rights than my mother and my grandmother. And that's, this year, one of the most important things that concerns me as someone who is running for Congress. My daughters chose to leave the state of Ohio, as many young people are now making the decision about where they want to live and basing it on the potential for, having safe pregnancies. My concern as it relates to women's rights in this particular election, I'm reminded of my own pregnancy, where 2 of the ways that are considered ways that abortions happen, inducement as well as C-sections. Both of those I had during normal course of delivery. And I shudder to think that my doctors would have been facing 10 years in prison to save my own life if that same pregnancy happened today. So I look forward to Election season, and I hope that you'll consider me to represent your interest in the House of Representatives.
Now, the two congressional candidates have two questions they answer. The first one, Americans are working harder, taking home less, struggling to feed their families and fill their gas tanks. What can Congress do about that? Dr. Enoch, you're first.
There are a number of things that Congress can do in order to ensure that we stabilize our economy. In particular, a bill, the infrastructure bill that was passed just a few months ago, my opponent voted against it. That particular bill sent $20 billion in investment to Ohio. And in particular, that investment will drive the entire industry. That particular bill will ensure that our economy is stabilized, and it will ensure that there are 10,000 jobs come to this economy. My opponent voted against it simply because Joe Biden's administration introduced the bill. I will make wise decisions in Congress and ensure that the people of this district have good paying jobs, good paying union jobs in our community, and that our young people are able to secure those jobs and stay here.
Congressman Davidson, the same question.
Well, we can change policies. As I said in my opening remarks, a lot of this happened because Joe Biden changed policies that were working. One, we need to get everyone back to work who was working. While unemployment rate is low, we still have nearly 2 million people fewer working than were working prior to COVID. And some of these things are artificially limiting our supply. So when you have more people working, you produce more. And then lastly, you look at policies like energy that have harmed our economy. If closing the Nord Stream pipeline is supposed to be bad for the Russian economy, why would we close our pipelines? Why would we limit our energy production? These things need to be reversed, and Republican majorities are going to do it. And of course, we need the pro-growth policies that we know worked. These are policies that Republicans implemented, and Joe Biden's been working to dismantle. So, change course.
If the issue of abortion comes before Congress, what is your stance? You have 1 minute, starting with Congressman Davidson.
Well, I'm very excited that Republicans broadly and some pro-life Democrats worked together for 50 years to end Roe v. Wade. It was an unjust decision. It imposed a judicial ruling on the country, and it was really decreed from the Supreme Court. People are represented by a Republican form of government. That means they have a legislature. And thankfully in Ohio, we have passed the heartbeat bill, which is a compromise. The science shows clearly that life begins at conception, and all life is precious. We should do everything in every instance to protect the mother and the baby, and I think that's what an ethical, honest doctor would do. Ohio's law inherently allows like morning after pills or abortion-inducing drugs in the case of rape or something, and it doesn't ban those. So I think it's a good law in the state of Ohio, and I fully support it.
Dr. Enoch, the same question.
I believe that women's bodily autonomy should be protected, and I will vote to protect the abortion issue. I believe that it is a medical decision that should be made between a woman and her doctor. My opponent wants to restrict women's ability to travel outside of Ohio, and women are not property or chattel slaves that should be controlled or prevented from just basic human rights and health care. And so I will work and fight for women and for women's bodily autonomy.
You now each have 1 minute for your closing comments, beginning with Dr. Enoch.
As a mother and as someone who is running to protect our rights and our interest in Congress, I intend to fight for the things that are important to people in this district. Things like climate change, whereas not voting on bills that will protect our climate puts us all at risk. It puts our health at risk. It ensures that our future generations may not see, another day. People are coming to this country as refugees, running from things like floods and fires and various other weather conditions. And my opponents voting against providing aid and funding internationally. And if that aid was afforded to those individuals, they may not need to come to the United States. They could stay in place in their own native countries. So I will fight for those kinds of things. You can learn more about me at enochforcongress.com.
Congressman Davidson?
I think everyone who's taken time to look at this and to participate, again, I encourage everyone to vote and go online at the Miami County Board of Elections, see who is on your ballot, and I humbly ask for the chance to continue serving, to continue defending freedom in Congress as your representative. And I'd also ask you to vote for the other candidates that are for defending freedom and the principles that have made America the world's land of opportunity. God bless you all.
About 2/3 of Miami County falls under the 15th Congressional District. Republican Congressman Kerry currently holds that seat and is seeking re-election. A scheduling conflict has prevented him from participating in this forum. He is being challenged in November 8th election by Democratic candidate Gary Jovison. Mr. Jovison, you have 2 minutes for your opening statements.
My name is Gary Josephson, and I'm a candidate for the 15th Congressional District. The lines were recently drawn to include these western counties from Franklin County, but I'm happy to be anywhere in the state and don't think that's a big issue. My background is I was some 20 years a union representative at Ohio State University, began to be president for about 6 years, and I have a degree in labor relations, human resources from the Ohio State University. I have a lot of, academically, I've recently gone back to school. I'm in the graduate program at the Moritz College of Law, and in my activities over the years, I've been recently youth-oriented. I work at a preschool. I've been interviewing youth for OSU on a research project, and I'm very concerned with both business and politics in the United States. I think that they've, of course there's a lot of dissension, but that's really off track because as a union representative we had a program. I don't think either political party really has a program except yell at each other. And then they don't know how to organize. So every 2 years or 4 years they hire a bunch of consultants. It gets nasty, they spend a lot of money, and the public is not well served. As a union representative, I negotiated contracts with Ohio State University, with Ohio Secretary of State's office, and the Pickaway Human Services. So I'm worried, I know about conciliation, I know about mediation, and I work for consensus. And but my grandfather was a labor union representative who then became electrical contractor, employing only union representatives. And so this is kind of in my blood to be both conciliatory management labor.
Gary, you have now 2 questions to answer, and you have 1 minute for your responses. Americans are working harder and taking home less, struggling to feed their families and to fill their gas tanks. What can Congress do about that?
Well, I think that there's an amendment to the Constitution called Amendment 14. Everybody talks about it with civil rights, but it actually also applies to business. It's a level playing field for business. It's also a level playing field for labor. So again, when you do something in one place, you say, well, how come they have an advantage? We lost all the industry in Ohio. My father was an engineer. This was a very industrial state, and I believe we can get back to that with green industry, but American industry and workers are going to have to say, it's unfair for people who produce under a foreign law to have their laws apply here, whether that's labor or environmental issues. A level playing field says if you make a good industry here and you're paying your workers well and you're environmentally sound, then no foreign company should be able to bump you out unless they're doing the same thing.
If the issue of abortion comes before Congress, what is your stance?
I've had a lot of, I had my niece here and her 6 sisters at various times have lived with me. They fight about this issue. I'm well. I also have a mother who was saying that the focus should be the world will be well when every child is wanted. So she had a very focused, she never mentioned the A word, but she was for reproductive rights. And I think the solution is very close to what waivers, what the Supreme Court overturned was actually a compromise. It allowed women choice up in the first. It allowed the state to intervene later in the pregnancy. And right now, it's a war between absolutes now, and I want to go back to a human compromise that helps both the women and concerns with people who are really opposed to late-term abortion.
Mr. Jovison, you have 1 minute now for your closing comments.
I realize this is a Chamber of Commerce, and sometimes labor is looked at as being adversarial. I think it's very important, and the building trades in particular, where my grandfather was, is very cooperative between management and labor. That's the only way it works. I think that's also true in other workplaces, and that the Chamber also, while they're focused on business, I went to Pike County where it was opioid central, and the Chamber is very involved in a lot of those social issues. And I know the Chamber here is probably doing the same thing. It isn't just how do you make business and money. It's a community that sticks together, that takes care of its problems, takes care of its hungry, as well as its opportunity for business to invest and do well. And I'm for all that. So I don't see myself as anti-business. I see myself as pro-business and pro-worker.
The only local issues on the ballot in Miami County are the proposed resolutions dealing with gas aggregation and electric aggregation. Joining us to explain what a yes vote means and what a no vote means is Miami County Administrator Charlotte Colley, along with a representative from Palmer Energy.
On the ballot this year, we have electric and natural gas aggregation. Voting yes for either one of them gives eligible Miami County residents the choice to participate in the aggregation program. The Miami County Commissioners won't enter into an aggregation program unless savings are projected from those bids that they would receive. If they vote no for the aggregation program, that means that the rates that Miami County residents are currently receiving will remain the same. Voting no prevents the county from offering a choice for energy aggregation. Bob Snavely, our energy consultant from Palmer Energy, is here today to help explain a little bit better how all this works.
Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. So governmental aggregation is basically the grouping together of households and small businesses to get a discount on the generation portion of your bill. Your bill is split up between the utility side, which is regulated, and then the deregulated side is the part that we can help with aggregation. The larger the group, the better savings you can get. That's kind of what we talked about when we spoke with the commissioners about putting aggregation on the ballot. They saw the value of the group purchasing and the savings opportunity.
So who is going to be voting on aggregation for electric and natural gas in this election?
So it'll be the unincorporated areas of the county, with the exception of Newberry Township, because they already have an aggregation in place. So basically all the townships and the unincorporated areas.
And because a lot of those folks currently have Pioneer Electric, it's a cooperative, are they impacted by this?
They won't. That's a great question. They won't be impacted. However, they will be able to vote on it. And so the way I kind of explain it is what we're trying to do is group together to get a discount on electric generation. And that's what the co-op does for their members. There's probably an outside benefit to them, if they own businesses in the county, that if there's some free cash around because of the savings for electric and natural gas, maybe the folks spend it at their businesses.
That makes sense. So how do residents join an aggregation program? How does that work?
Yeah, so this is an opt-out program, which means if you're directly with the utility, you're going to be automatically enrolled. so you don't have to do anything. If you don't want to participate, you'll get an opt-out letter when the deal's gone through. And that'll have the terms and conditions on it, and all the information that you need to make your decision on aggregation.
Wonderful. So we're running short on time, and we want to make sure that everyone understands what the ballot language actually says, because it is a little confusing. So I'm going to let Bob take a look at that and try and read through it, so when you get to your voting precinct, you're ready.
Yeah, and this is there's one for electric and one for gas, and it shall Miami County have the authority to aggregate the retail electric loads located in the unincorporated areas of Miami County, excluding Mayberry Township, and for those purposes to enter into service agreements to facilitate for those loads and sale and purchase of electric. Such aggregation to occur automatically except where a person elects to opt out. So, if you see that language, same for natural gas, you substitute electric for natural gas and it reads the same way. That's what we're talking about here. Unfortunately, we can't change that verbiage. That kind of is what it is, but just so people understand, that's what we're talking about here. And if you're for it and you want the ability to group together to get a discount, then yes would be your answer. And if you're against that, then obviously no would be your answer.
Now, the following Republican candidates in Miami County are running unopposed. Dr. Steve Huffman for State Senate, Jenna Powell for State Representative, Ted Mercer for Miami County Commissioner, Matt Gerhardt for Miami County Auditor, and Sean Peoples for Miami County Clerk of Courts. There is no race in the 2nd District Court of Appeals, and no one locally filed for the State Board of Education.
On behalf of the YWCA Piqua and Troy Leadership alumni, thank you for joining us for this educational opportunity. As mentioned earlier, in addition to the candidates and issues presented in this forum, there will be other races at both the state and local level. This year's ballot also includes 2 state issues dealing with proposed changes to the Ohio Constitution. To view the complete ballot, go to the Miami County Board of Elections website. Those who would like to vote early in person can do so starting October 12th at the old County Courthouse, 215 West Main Street, Troy. Check the Miami County Board of Elections website for specific dates and times. The polls will be open on Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th, from 6:30 a.m. until 7:30 p.m. Please remember to take a current photo ID to the polling location. The YWCA Piqua does not endorse any candidate or issue. We thank Leadership Troy alumni, Troy Chamber of Commerce, for their efforts toward this partnership, and AJ Ganger and Piqua Indian Nation Television for their technical help with this broadcast. Remember to vote. This right is fundamental to a democracy and should not be taken for granted.